Hi everyone, Aaron here for Zollotech, and we have some more information when it comes to the next iPhone, iOS 13, iPad, and macOS. So I wanted to share those with you. I don't normally cover rumors, but we have some more reliable information that was posted on 9to5Mac from some other sources that seem to be pretty reliable given their past record. So the first thing has to do with the next version of the iPhone. If you've seen any of those renders, you'll know that it has a square camera on the back, or at least that's what it looks like. And with the next iPhone, we're going to get a wide-angle lens. But the new news has to do with the forward-facing camera. And they're supposedly going to update it from what it is currently to a 12 megapixel camera with a wide angle option. So similar to what we have on a Pixel or a Galaxy S8 Plus or one of those phones, will now have a wide angle lens on the front. So that will be nice. And also it looks like Apple's going to obviously upgrade the CPU to whatever the next one is, A13 or whatever they decide to call it, along with a focus on AI updates to the neural engine. So whatever that means specifically, we don't know, but there should be some updates there. Now, when it comes to iOS 13, we should see an update to the apps of Find Friends and Find iPhone. And these are apps that can be very helpful. I use Find Friends all the time to locate family members and things like that. And it looks like they're going to combine both of those apps into one specific app that covers both things, from iPhones to AirPods and finding devices, and also your friends. So we'll get rid of an icon, I guess, and combine those into one app that's very helpful. Now, the next thing has to do with iPad, and the iPad apparently is going to get a feature that can make it a second display to the Mac. And if you haven't seen how this can work with a third-party app, there's an app called Duet. Let me show you how that works, and apparently this is going to come to the native macOS and iOS. So let me open my MacBook here. Now I have my Lightning to USB-C cable plugged in, so I'll take my Lightning cable and plug it into the iPad, and the other end's going into the MacBook. I'll open Duet up here. We'll give it a moment. It launches, and now we have macOS using the iPad as a secondary or primary display. I can rotate it. I can open different web pages, scroll through them with two fingers, and that's how Duet works. But this supposedly is going to be native to the iPad with the next version of iOS and macOS, and hopefully it will be wireless as well. So that should be really nice, and it's coming, I guess, in June when we see it with iOS 13. Now, iOS 13 will be shown in June along with macOS 10.15 or 10.15, and we don't have a name for either of them yet or anything like that, but we'll see them in June and then a final release in September. Now, the next thing has to do with macOS. macOS is going to get some updates that are very familiar to iOS users, and it's sort of combining both of those things together. So if you're not familiar with what they did last year with a project called Marzipan, they added some apps from the iPhone over on the Mac side, and what those apps are, let me see if I can bring up the dock here. Now, apps like Stocks were brought over to the Mac this year, and that app is not particularly very good. Any of the Marzipan apps, if you look here on macOS, they're the same sort of thing that we get with iOS, but they're just ported over, and they're nothing really special. Sometimes they have issues with resizing and things like that, but they're going to be porting more of that. And what that means is apps that use Marzipan or are ported from iOS will be able to use shortcuts. So shortcuts is going to be coming to macOS, and if you're familiar with shortcuts, you can do tasks with it and everything else. I have some videos on that as well, but you'll be able to use the same shortcuts that you use on iOS on macOS. Just another combination of both of the OSs coming together more and more. Now, the next thing we're going to see is screen time. So if you're not familiar with that, on iPhone, you can go to your settings, and then you go down to screen time, and screen time will give you an overall usage of your phone. Now, I haven't used it much. I've been making videos and things right now after midnight, so it says I've only used it for 7 minutes, but it combines your total usage across your devices and also allows you to limit your device usage. So maybe you want to set a limit to use, say, YouTube for an hour or two, it will tell you after you've used it for that amount of time and kind of lock it down or let you continue using it if you put in a passcode. So that's coming to macOS as well. Now, another thing they're bringing to macOS has to do with iCloud management. On iOS, it's done pretty well in your settings. They're bringing a new preference panel to the Mac that will allow you to better manage iCloud settings along with your family settings. So that'll be nice as well. Another feature they're updating has to do with iMessage, and while we have iMessage on the Mac already, macOS will gain screen effects. So if you go into Messages, and here you can see there's screen effects. So you can send balloons, or you can have a little spotlight, or maybe we'll go over here and have a heart, or some other effects, a little laser show and fireworks. So this will all be coming to macOS. And I know there's not a ton that's very exciting, but it's basically bringing all of the refinements that they've been adding to iOS over to the Mac side as well. So there's one more feature that I'm kind of excited to see what it is, and it has to do with the Apple Watch. Now, currently your Apple Watch can authenticate to your Mac and unlock it when you're nearby, and that kind of saves you putting in your password. But there's going to be some new authentication features that we're not really sure about yet, but maybe it will allow us to pay with Apple Pay like we can with Face ID with our iPhone right now, just by having your phone on your wrist, or maybe authenticate Apple passwords using Keychain. We don't really know yet. We just know that there's going to be some new authentication options. That's it for all of the leaks so far. I'm sure we'll see something else before June, but if you know anything, I'd love to hear what you have to say in the comments below about any new features, and maybe let me know what features you'd like to see. There's quite a few I know that I've been contacted about that people want to see in the next versions of macOS and iOS. Let us know what you think in the comments below. If you'd like to get your hands on this wallpaper, of course, I'll link it in the description as I always do. If you haven't subscribed already, please subscribe and like. As always, thanks for watching. This is Aaron. I'll see you next time.